Today we are taking a deep look into the life, journey, and legacy of Scottish rugby legend Scott Hastings, a man who was known for his fearless tackles, intense passion, and leadership on the rugby field. Scott Hastings was not just a player, he was a symbol of strength, commitment, and determination in Scottish rugby. From his early childhood in Edinburgh to representing Scotland on the world stage, his story is one of hard work, sacrifice, and unforgettable moments. This is the life story of Scott Hastings. Scott Hastings was born on January 20th, 1965, in Edinburgh, Scotland. He grew up in a supportive and sports-oriented family, where discipline and competition were part of everyday life. From a very young age, Scott showed a strong interest in physical sports and team activities. He was naturally competitive, always wanting to push himself harder than others around him. Scott attended George Watson's College, a school known for producing talented athletes, especially rugby players. It was here that his rugby skills started to develop more seriously. During his school years, coaches quickly noticed his physical strength, aggression, and natural leadership qualities. He was not the quiet type of player. He was energetic, emotional, and always fully committed in every game he played. His older brother, Gavin Hastings, also attended the same school and would go on to become one of the greatest rugby captains in Scotland's history. Together, the Hastings brothers would later become one of the most iconic sibling duos in rugby history. Scott Hastings began his senior rugby journey with Watsonians Rugby Club. At that time, rugby union was still an amateur sport, meaning players were not fully professional and often balanced careers alongside rugby. Despite these challenges, Scott quickly made a name for himself. He played as a centre and was known for his aggressive defense, strong tackling, and fearless attitude. Opponents often found him difficult to break through because of his physical presence and reading of the game. His performances at club level made it clear that he was ready for a bigger stage. Selectors began to take notice of his consistency and determination. In 1986, Scott Hastings made his debut for the Scotland national rugby team. This was a major turning point in his career. From his very first matches, he showed that he was not intimidated by international pressure. He played with confidence, intensity, and physical strength. Scott quickly established himself as an important part of Scotland's midfield defence. Fans appreciated his energy and passion every time he stepped onto the field. Unlike many players who take time to adjust to international rugby, Scott adapted quickly. He was not just participating, he was influencing games. As Scott Hastings' career progressed, he became one of the most reliable and respected players in Scottish rugby. He competed against some of the strongest rugby nations in the world, including England, New Zealand, Australia, and France. One of the defining eras of his career came during Scotland's success in the Five Nations Championship. The most memorable moment came in 1990, when Scotland achieved a historic Grand Slam victory over England. The match at Murrayfield Stadium is still remembered as one of the greatest moments in Scottish rugby history. Scott's defensive performance during that match, especially his famous tackle on Rory Underwood, became legendary. It symbolized his fearless attitude and total commitment to the team. For many fans, that moment defined Scott Hastings' career. He was no longer just a player, he was a national hero. Scott Hastings was later selected to represent the British and Irish Lions, one of the most prestigious honors in rugby. The Lions bring together the best players from Scotland, England, Wales, and Ireland to compete against the Southern Hemisphere giants. Scott toured Australia in 1989 and New Zealand in 1993. These tours are known for being extremely physically demanding and mentally challenging. Playing against the best rugby nations in the world tested Scott's abilities at the highest level. He proved that he could perform under extreme pressure and physical intensity. His inclusion in the Lions squad confirmed his status as one of the top centers of his generation. He also shared this achievement with his brother Gavin Hastings, making them one of the most famous brother pairs in international rugby history. Scott Hastings was known for his very distinctive playing style. He was an emotional, physical, and highly competitive player. On the field, he played with aggression and intensity, never holding back. He believed in leading by example rather than words. His tackles were strong, his presence was dominant, and his energy was unmatched. Teammates often described him as someone who demanded high standards from everyone around him. He was passionate about winning, and never accepted anything less than full effort. Off the field, however, Scott was very different. He was known as friendly, respectful, and approachable. Fans who met him often described him as humble and kind. Despite his fame, Scott Hastings retired from professional rugby in 1999. After years of playing at the highest level, he stepped away from the game but remained closely connected to it. His retirement marked the end of an era in Scottish rugby. However, his influence on the sport did not end there. After retiring, Scott Hastings transitioned into rugby broadcasting and analysis. He became a well-known commentator and television personality. His strong opinions, emotional reactions, and deep understanding of rugby made him a popular figure in sports media. He was not afraid to express honest views about games and players. This honesty made him both respected and sometimes controversial in the media world. He also participated in rugby documentaries, interviews, and public discussions about the sport. Beyond broadcasting, Scott Hastings dedicated time to charitable work. He supported mental health awareness campaigns and youth sports development programs. He believed strongly in giving back to the community. Scott used his platform to raise awareness about important social issues. Many people respected him not only as an athlete, but also as a person who cared about society. In 2022, Scott Hastings was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin lymphoma. This was a major turning point in his personal life. He began treatment and faced the illness with courage and determination. Even during treatment, he tried to remain active in public life whenever possible. However, the illness gradually became more difficult to control over time. In 2024, Scott Hastings experienced a devastating personal loss when his wife Jenny Hastings passed away after going missing during a swim near Edinburgh. This tragedy deeply affected Scott and his entire family. It was one of the most difficult periods of his life. Friends and close sources later said that he struggled emotionally while dealing with grief and illness at the same time. Despite this, he continued to show strength in public appearances. In his final years, Scott Hastings continued battling serious health issues. His condition worsened due to complications related to cancer treatment. Despite everything, he remained surrounded by his family and close loved ones. Those close to him described him as strong, brave, and determined until the very end. Death and cause of death. Scott Hastings passed away on May 17, 2026, at the age of 61. He died due to complications from cancer treatment while battling non-Hodgkin lymphoma. His passing was peaceful, with family members by his side. The news of his death was met with shock and sadness across the rugby world. Tributes from the rugby world. After his death, tributes poured in from players, coaches, and fans worldwide. Scottish rugby described him as one of the greatest centers in the country's history. Former teammates remembered him as a warrior on the field and a loyal friend off it. Fans highlighted his passion, intensity, and unforgettable playing style. His legacy was celebrated across international rugby communities. Legacy. Scott Hastings leaves behind a powerful and lasting legacy in rugby. He was not just a player, he was an icon of Scottish rugby. His fearless attitude, leadership, and dedication continue to inspire young players today. He will always be remembered as one of Scotland's true rugby greats. Thank you for watching this documentary. Rest in peace, Scott Hastings.